Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie McLean, and Oksana is here with us. We're going to do the presentation on legal issues first, and then we'll turn the meeting over to Oksana to talk about SBA resources. We are talking about legal issues specifically related to employment discrimination with some suggestions for risk reduction. Just a little housekeeping first. The webinar is being recorded. The presentation will be emailed to you. And I do ask that if you have questions, please type them in either the chat or the Q&A, and I'll answer them at the end of the presentation. This is a very high-level overview of discrimination issues, so we ought to finish in plenty of time to take questions, and so don't hesitate to put them in. My name's Jackie McLean. And this tells you a little bit about my work history. I'd like to tell you the reason that I work with SCORE and I'm dedicated to helping small business owners is because I grew up in a small business household. My parents owned the neighborhood grocery shop. My mother was the business manager for the neighborhood flower shop. And those small businesses were my first two jobs once I became old enough to work. I know how hard it is to get your small business off the ground and to get it to run at a level where it can support you and you can keep the doors open. For that reason, we're going to be talking today about one of the issues that I think is very important. I do have a law degree and I did work 30 years in human resource administration. So I had a lot of experience dealing with legal liability. One of the things I often hear from the small business clients that I work with is that they just have a small business and they're not going to have many legal issues. Somehow, I wish that were true, but the fact is there are lots of legal issues out there and we're a very litigious society. Some of the legal issues that you may face are listed below. Under general liability, frequent suits happen for slip and fall when people are in the office space or in the store where you have your brick and mortar. Negligence is another cause of general liability. Fraud is often used as a base for litigation, alleging false advertising or false warranty. Other areas are product liability, which is based on product defect or defects in the warning or directions for use of the product, and contract disputes, which might be a breach of contract claim from a vendor or someone who loaned you money, a breach of a non-disclosure or non-compete clause that you have in a contract. You will notice that none of these topics are employment-related legal topics. That's because I put them off to the side because over 60% of business legal liability will occur in the area of employment law. It's just a fact of life, and it doesn't matter pretty much what kind of business you are in. Your greatest liability is from employment law. We're going to talk about some of the common types of employment litigation. Wrongful discharge, where a person you've terminated alleges that you did not have a valid reason for terminating them. You didn't get the facts right, or they didn't do what you said, but they claim an entitlement to the job and your removal as a wrongful discharge. Retaliation is a claim that is filed when an employee reports a possible illegal action by an employer, and then the employer does something negative to the employee and they claim it's because they made the report. Doesn't have to be the person who actually made the report who can claim retaliation. Somebody who supported the complainer in the workplace can also claim retaliation, and this is one of the widest expanding areas of employment litigation. Other claims may come from the Fair Labor Standards Act. They would be alleging violations of minimum pay, failure to pay appropriately for overtime, inappropriate record keeping, or not reporting hours worked. Finally, the area of the largest amount of litigation in the employment area is discrimination law. And in discrimination law, there are suits for hiring, promotion, terms and conditions of employment, hostile environment, and reasonable accommodation. We're going to take a very high look at these areas of discrimination law today. We don't have a lot of time. I will tell you that we will in the future be doing more legal workshops, providing more in-depth information about what we're talking about today and other areas of liability for small businesses. There are a variety of laws that prohibit discrimination. Each of the laws that exists spells out what the protected classifications are. Most laws provide protection based on an immutable factor, such as the person's race, their national origin, their age, their disability. Those are all immutable factors and often the basis of discrimination complaints. Other examples of classifications are gender and sexual orientation. I want to take just a minute before we go on to look at how California differs from the national government in terms of the trigger for discrimination law being applicable to employers. You can see on the column to the right under the federal government, equal pay in California are the same. Anybody who employs a single employee will be subject to claims under the Equal Pay Act. Discrimination laws, however, differ significantly. The various discrimination laws under federal guidance require an employer to have 15 to 20 employees. California, in all of these areas, will make the law applicable if the employer has as few as 5 employees. In addition, California has stricter coverage for sexual orientation and medical history than any other state in the nation. In the areas of age discrimination, Title VII protection doesn't start until an employer has 20 employees, and the Age Discrimination in Employment Act doesn't apply until the employer has 25 employees. However, in California, both of those laws are applicable to any employer who has as few as 5 employees. I apologize to you. I think I'm trying to lose my voice here, but we're going to keep going. We're going to take a minute now to look at the areas again where these complex laws apply. And discrimination laws are very complex. They're also eligible for court interpretation, and not every court interprets the language the same way. But employer actions can trigger liability in terms of hiring, applying terms and conditions of employment, creating or allowing a hostile work environment, making or refusing to make a reasonable accommodation, and disciplining or terminating employees. We're going to take a look at each one of these areas. Again, it's a very high-level look, but I want you to understand what kinds of liability you have and what your actions might produce that liability. You should produce a written job description. It's important that anybody you hire understands what the expectation of their employment is. But if you produce a written job description, it is critical that any requirements that are included as necessary qualifications are essential to the performance of the job. Those are called essential job elements, and that's a term of law that is used in many of the discrimination laws. You have to review your job description to see that it does not use any non-essential requirements which exclude the possibility of hiring a protected class member who is able to otherwise perform the essential elements of the job. I'll give you an example of this that we frequently see. A lifting requirement, a requirement that an applicant must be able to lift 40 pounds is a valid essential job element for somebody who is stocking shelves and constantly lifting boxes of product and putting them into place, or taking them off and getting them out into a store. However, a 40-pound lifting requirement is not a valid essential element for a secretarial job, even though the secretary may once in a while have to move a box of papers that weighs as much as 40 pounds. So you need to think carefully about whether a requirement that you're writing is absolutely essential to perform the duties of the job for which you are interviewing. Other things that apply in the area of hiring are issues that deal with inappropriate interview questions. People always talk about illegal interview questions. The fact is that there are no, quote, illegal interview questions. There are, however, questions that raise an issue of discrimination and should be avoided. These include any question specifically asking if a person is a member of a protected class, or any question which indirectly may identify the person as a member of a protected class. And some good examples of those kinds of indirect questions are questions about membership in some organization which has substantially a large membership from a protected class, whether that be a gender-based group or a racial-based group. Also, any questions that relate to family plans should be avoided. You're certainly able to set out for an applicant the hours of work and the schedule that you expect them to keep. What you can't do is ask them if they have responsibilities for child care or other family obligations who will interfere with the performance of the job. You can ask them, can you meet this schedule? But you can't ask about their family responsibilities and assume that they may not be able to meet the schedule because of those responsibilities. Another avoidable question is any question about religious limitations or the impact such a limitation should have on work. Again, what you emphasize is what is required for the job. If the person has religious limitations that could impact the work, you may have a responsibility to do reasonable accommodation. You cannot assume that the person will not be able to do the job because of their religious limitations. Other questions to be avoided are asking somebody about their accent or their national origin. People slip into that when they think they're doing casual conversation with an applicant. And they'll ask, oh, is that name Italian? Oh, you look like you're from Scandinavia. What's your background? You need to avoid any kinds of questions or references that would apply membership in a specific protected group. And finally, you need to avoid questions referring to the limitations that are caused by a disability. You can have, again, a clear understanding of what is required for the job. And you may have a discussion with an applicant who raises the question or raises an issue about their ability to do something because of a fiscal limitation. But you cannot ask questions like, will your hearing problem interfere with you answering the phone? Those kinds of things you have to completely avoid. If an individual is not hired for a position that he or she may then raise an issue of discrimination, if any question which directly or indirectly related to protected class membership was asked by anyone representing the company during the hiring process, It's important to know that that doesn't relate just to those who are actually doing interviews. It applies to casual conversations that they might have with any representative, somebody who would be a coworker or a support staff. And we often see issues raised when support staff are trying to have casual conversation with a person waiting for an interview, and they go into those areas that we've talked about to be avoided. So you need to be sure that all of your employees understand that in interacting with applicants for jobs, they have to avoid all of those areas that we talked about in terms of questions or comments. The next area we're going to talk about is terms and conditions of employment. That relates to just about every aspect of the working relationship. An employer can face a claim of discrimination for the treatment of one employee in a different manner than a similarly situated employee regarding any working condition or term. Those kinds of claims are applied to things like office assignment, the telephone number that you give the person, and whether if they move, they're able to take their phone with them, the salary you are paying, granting or denying training opportunities, specific work assignments either being given or being withheld from a person, any benefit that is implied to employees, or granting or denying any kind of promotion. Again, it's perfectly appropriate if there are working related issues that would indicate differential treatment. So if a person is going to be moving into a position where they need a specific skill, and you provide that training to them, but don't provide it to someone else who is not taking that kind of a promotion, that's not a discriminatory act. But you need to think carefully about the members of your workforce that are within a protected class and ensure that you treat them in the same manner as you treat any other similarly situated employee. We talked about hostile work environment as the basis for litigation. It's usually raised in cases of sex discrimination, but it has expanded and has now been raised in litigation related to age, race, disability, or gender orientation. So a hostile work environment is a workplace in which any unwelcome conduct or comments based on or related to or aimed at protected class membership are so severe that a reasonable person would find it to be offensive, hostile, or abusive. And where such conduct unreasonably interferes with the employee's work performance. I think one of the things that employers find distressing about this area is that people have different standards for what they think is offensive or hostile or abusive. And the courts tend to look at what the belief system of the complainant is, not what the general belief system is of the person who is making the comment or acting in a certain way. We often see hostile work environment cases come up in workplaces that are more casual, where there's joking around and sometimes kind of playing around in loading dock situations or at a physical work site. People will tend to get into the business of joking or making comments, and they don't often think about whether the comment or the joke is aimed at a particular protected class. So you need to raise the attention of all the employees in your workforce to the sensitivity of having any kind of action or comment that might offend a person within a specific protected class. Next, we're going to talk about sexual harassment. And sexual harassment is a very common form of discrimination complaint. It is generally based on any unwanted, non-reciprocal behavior of a sexual nature. And that behavior has to be done by a person in a position to either control or affect the employee's job status. And that person then needs to use that power to cause the employee to tolerate such behavior or to submit to sexual activity or to fear that the refusal to do so will have a negative job consequence. All of these terms in this statement are very specifically used in courts in considering sexual harassment. So the business about being unwanted and non-reciprocal is very important. If somebody says, I don't like you touching me, even if all you're doing is leaning over their desk and they're a person who believes that that kind of contact is offensive, it can be a problem because they've expressed to you that it's unwanted behavior. In addition, people generally think that sexual harassment can only be caused by someone in a supervisory position, but that's not true. The courts have held that coworkers or even subordinates can engage in sexual harassment if they have any ability to affect the person's employment in any way, including the fact that they can not work effectively with the person, causing them to be unable to do their job. It's important to note that people have different degrees of tolerance for the behavior related to sexuality. That's a perception of the target, not the perception of the actor, will be what the court focuses on. When I teach sexual harassment courses, I generally use an exercise called Take a Stand. And in that exercise, I draw a hypothetical line down the middle of the room. And I say on one end of this line, the action I'm going to mention is always harassment. On the other end of the line is that it would never be considered harassment. And then I ask everybody in the room to go stand where they believe on that line what I'm talking about would fall. I use examples such as a coworker having a picture of a spouse in a skimpy bathing suit on their desk. It's amazing to know that there are people who would find that to be an element of sexual harassment, although in that particular instance, the majority of people are somewhere in the middle or at the end where they find it not to be harassing. The importance of this factor is that you think about what you are doing and how it's perceived by the people within your work area in order to make a determination that your behavior will not be interpreted as being sexually provocative or sexually oriented in terms of trying to force the person into some kind of contact with which they are not comfortable. The last area we're going to talk about are really two areas that we've put together: religion or discriminatory or disability reasonable accommodation. And I put them together because reasonable accommodation is required in both instances. It's a very different law, but the necessity of the employer to think about what they can do to accommodate either a disability or religious requirement of an employee is important under existing federal and state law. You may have a legal liability if you fail to provide reasonable accommodation to an applicant for employment. There are a number of factors that you're allowed to consider in providing reasonable accommodation. The first thing I would say is that the courts have moved to a position where pretty much reasonable accommodation has to be determined through a mutually conducted exchange of information. So you have to have a discussion with the person about what their limitations are and what you can do to accommodate those limitations. But in any case, the person has to be qualified to perform all the aspects of the job, which are essential job elements. They must be able to perform all essential elements, but they can be able to perform them with reasonable accommodation. So you may be asked to provide a larger type use on computer so that a person with limited visibility can read the computer information that they have to use for their work. You may be required to provide a different type of desk so that a person in a wheelchair can get to the desk and do the work. If they're able to do the work, and you can reasonably accommodate them by small changes or sometimes even fairly large changes, that will be a necessary reasonable accommodation. The nature of the accommodation has to be determined using the interactive process. And that's what I'm talking about. Have to talk to the person and go through this process. The law does require, in both case of religious and disability accommodation, that the accommodation must be fiscally feasible. Small employers have a little advantage in this area because the courts are more likely to accept the fact that the required accommodation would be an overbearing fiscal responsibility from a small employer than they are from a large organization where there might be more flexibility and more funding. So that's just an overview of the areas where you might have liability. We're going to take some time now and talk about what you can do to reduce your liability. First is having a well-articulated policy of non-discrimination, which is widely distributed and posted in the workplace. The strongest defense is avoidance, and this is most likely to happen if all of your employees know and understand that discrimination will not be tolerated. You must also have all of the written policies that are required by law to be posted. There are posters available from most federal agencies, and you can buy general posters on someplace like Amazon to put up in the workplace to provide all the required notifications. You should also be offering or requiring attendance at all training that is required by law. California, for instance, for many employers requires training about sexual harassment and how to avoid it. If there is such a requirement that applies to your business, you need to be sure and document that each employee attends it when they attend it, if it has to be updated, when it's updated. Other actions that you can take are having a well-documented and communicated grievance or complaint procedure, which identifies to whom the issue should be raised, how they will be handled, and what the timeline for response is. And I would tell you, having this well-documented program is a beginning place. You have to be sure that you comply with your own requirements of your own procedure. For instance, if someone's on vacation and you can't meet a timeline for response, it's important that you have written communication with the complainant, explain the situation, and get their agreement that the timeline can be extended until the information needed for processing the grievance can be provided. You need to encourage employees to resolve problems internally rather than going to an external agency. And that's most likely to happen if employees perceive that your procedures are fair and effective and a means of resolving issues promptly within the workplace. A protective employer has these following actions and traits. They're going to have well-trained personnel handling their grievances or complaints. It's supporting those individuals in doing their job is important. And the person that does that can be the owner of the business, a manager, a consultant, or a designated employee. But whoever is doing it, they need first to have a good understanding of the legal requirements of the applicable law. Second, they have to have excellent people skills. And that includes good listening skills. We often find that issues of a minor nature can be resolved just by having someone that the employee complainant can talk to, feel that they are heard, and that an adjustment can be made in what's happening. The handler also needs to be an effective negotiator or mediator. Sometimes you have to bring people together and get them to agree to move in a certain direction. They have to be committed to creating the appropriate documentation and keeping those records. I'm going to talk in a minute. I'm going to recommend that you have good documentation in general. I strongly support the use of supervisors' notes that are kept on either a daily or weekly basis that record both good and bad interactions with employees. The owner or designated employee who is in charge of the process needs to have the final review of the dispute resolution prior to the time that resolution is communicated to the employee. The critical steps for risk management include early planning, policy and protocol development, employee requirements to limit risk, ongoing communication, reporting procedures for complaints, and careful management of the complaint procedure. You need to understand legal requirements, have an intent to comply, use good hiring practices, have open communication, documentation, and I go back to the supervisor's log there, and patience. These are difficult situations to handle, and patience will go a long way. I'm going to do just a minute an ad for a SCORE mentor. You can get a SCORE mentor at score.org, and they will help you work your way through the challenges of getting your business set up and running. SCORE mentors are successful, experienced executives who provide mentoring on a volunteer basis. They provide free mentoring one-on-one by email or virtually. And to get resources for small businesses, please visit score.org. That concludes my comments. I'm going to look and see. I have 5 questions. I'm going to try and handle them really quickly because I cut a little bit into the SBA time. Okay. I'm getting a lot of comments, but not a specific question to be asked. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Oksana.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, so let me share my screen.
There we go.
And do you see my screen? Sharing right now. Do you see the SBA? Jackie, let me know if you see my screen. It's like I'm sharing. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. So I hope everyone can see my screen. So it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm Outreach and Marketing Specialist with the Small Business Administration Sacramento District Office, and we're the smallest federal agency dedicated to supporting small business community. We have quite a few things to offer today to you in terms of support and funding. Our district covers 21 northern counties of California, and there are 5 other districts across our state. that could assist you if you happen to be located outside of our district office. And there is a total of 68 other districts across the country, and we're one of them. So if you happen to live in our area, you're welcome to go to our website, sba.gov/assistance, where you will be able to find local resources and assistance with your small business needs. We work on 4 different areas. First area, it's entrepreneur development. We provide education, information, technical assistance, training, and counseling. And we work with Small Business Development Center, SCORE, Veterans Business Outreach Center, and Women's Business Outreach Center to provide counseling to small businesses. The next area is access to capital, business, and I will be talking about this here. Next slide. And we also work on government contracting and small business certification. We also have business opportunities here that can assist you learn more about contracting and grow your business in the federal government. We also have another partner, it's an Apex Accelerator. They can give you one-on-one advising and counseling specific to government contracting and state contracting in California. And the last area we cover, it's a disaster recovery. So as you know, we had some rains this winter that caused a mudslide, and now almost right now in every county we have a disaster declaration. There is another area that we assist small businesses as well as property owners. And SBA may lend private nonprofits up to $2 million to repair or replace damaged or destroyed real estate, equipment, and inventory. And you will receive after the presentation, and on my last slide, you will see the links. So now back to our loan programs. SBA provides federally backed loan to the lenders. SBA is not a direct lender. SBA's underwriting guidelines administered by its lending partners. SBA funds a network of technical support services, including the Small Business Development Center, SCORE, Women's Business Center, Veterans Business Outreach Center. Those are our resource partners, and that will help new borrowers come into the system and get loans. And our standard SBA-backed loan programs are available to assist small businesses. These programs, the most widely used programs in California, and we offer SBA guarantee loans to startups and to existing businesses as well. And we partner with different banks, credit unions, certified development corporations, and small business development centers. So let me start on the SBA microloan program. We have partners we work with to offer you credit for your small business with a bigger credit box that you might get if you will go to the traditional lender. So for those of you, if you're starting a business, if you're a startup, and you only need probably up to $50,000, we have a microloan program for you. Those loans are available to you throughout mission-based partners. One of those is opening doors. They will take a look at your business plan, cash flow projections, and they will decide if their microloan program is a good fit for you and you're a good fit for them. The next will be our 7A loan program. We call it also a flagship program, SBA loan guarantee program. So SBA loan proceeds may be used for working capital, furniture, fixtures, equipment, machinery. If you'd like to purchase a land or construction, renovation, business acquisition, and many more. And we work with certified development companies and many banks in the area. It's across the country, and they all partner with SBA. And I will explain more in my next slide about a 7A loan guarantee program. And let me touch base on a 5-4 loan. It's another program that we have. If you have a small business and you've been in business already for a while, it means 3+ years, and you've been generating a revenue for at least 2 years. And if you're leasing a building right now or a space, and for example, you decide to own the commercial real estate, We have a program called 504 program, and it's primarily for real estate purchase, construction, or buying very large, expensive equipment. 504 loans also has a very attractive program for buying heavy-duty items, and it's a second mortgage subordinated debt. In the 504 loan program, it's a 100% federally guaranteed. So we have 504 lenders that are certified development companies, not certified development companies, they're nonprofits. 504 loans, they're funded by investors who buy the loan package. And Congress provided the federally backed loan guarantee. So they guarantee the portion of the loan, right? And so with the 504, you get low rates, long-term, and low equity. You can use 7A and 504 loan proceeds for the same purpose. I'm sorry, so you cannot use 7A and 504 loan for the same purpose, for the same real deal, but you can definitely apply, but the loan proceeds has to go on different purposes. One can go on purchase land, another 7A can go on furniture, equipment, and etc. And you will get 10%. You will have to inject as your own down payment, your own investment into the loan. 40% comes from SBA, and 50% comes from senior debt. And certified development companies and the senior lenders, they work together all the time. They know the process, so it's very smooth and closing process. But borrower will still be guaranteed all loans in case of a default. So SBA will guarantee the portion to the lender in case of a default, but it doesn't change the fact that the loans will be personally guaranteed by the borrower. In the event of a default, the lending partner will execute the personal guarantee. So they will go to SBA and will ask for the guarantee on the loan. SBA guarantee loans are available to startup companies, and borrowers required to have skills and experience in the specific industry, as well as a business plan and financial projections. All the programs I'm covering here today, I'm giving you just a high-level overview of them, so you have an idea. And if you'd like to get more information on the details and funding programs, please go to sba.gov website to find that information. And you will also receive the slides after the presentation with the links and the details on the loan programs and how to find participating lenders and how to find CDCs in your area. So why is the capital program is a benefit to you? There's a couple of benefits listed on this slide. So when the lender is looking at your commercial loan, it's not like you're getting a house loan, it's different. So you go to the lender and you want to start a business. You want to have a loan for that, right? So you don't go to lender and say, how much do I qualify? Instead, you come prepared. You need to have a business plan and cash flow options on hand. That's why it comes in handy our resource network. Please make sure you reach out to them and on the list of documents that needed to the lender. And they will also help you prepare how to talk to a lender. For example, if you have a bad credit score in the past, and maybe you don't have that many years of experience in that particular area with your business, or maybe if you're just a startup, this is why you would like to use SBA guarantee loan. It works like insurance for lenders, so it helps lenders to open their credit box wider for you, and it's a better opportunity for you to obtain that cash. You can also refinance and to improve your cash flow. If you have a current business commercial loan and it's restricting your cash flow, there is a good cash for you, so you can reduce that payment and you can use it for that. You can also include SBA guarantee fees into your loan, and the lender might charge you some processing fees for that, so you will have to pay them upfront. For your 7A and 5-4 loans, you don't have to pay the SBA loans upfront necessarily, unless you choose to do so. So this is how you increase your cash flow by not having have those expenses and extended them for the life of the loan. So who is eligible? So you need to operate for profit. Nonprofits are not eligible. You have to be a U.S. citizen or a verified green card holder and be located in the United States. You must be of a good character, meaning a person who the lenders will take a look who you are and the person who is willing to pay the loan and who will pay the loan. So they will take a look at your past interactions with the law enforcement. And you will need to have ability to manage your business. So the lenders will like to make sure they're making a good investment in you. They want to make sure that you will be successful in business, that you have the necessary types of skill to run that specific business. So maybe you have just an idea, but if you don't have experience, right, that's something different. So the lenders would want to look at that as well. Most businesses categories are eligible. However, there are some exceptions like gambling, adult stores, life insurance companies. Some industries that are legal in California, such as cannabis-related and marijuana-related business, but they wouldn't be eligible for federal guarantee because they're illegal federally. And okay, so and examples how you can use the loan. For example, the employees buy the business from the owner, or maybe the bakery uses 7A loan to open 4 new stores, or car parts company buys a competitor. Another example, manufacturer uses 504 to refinance and pay off the existing debt. That's the examples how you can use the loan. So this is the slide on the details on the 7A loan program details and loan maturities, interest rates, and guarantees fees. You will get this slide after this presentation, so definitely you can take a look and all the details and percentages and the guarantee fees you'll pay. So more details on all the fees, terms, conditions can be found on the website, and you will get the slides with the link on the website. In case if you have questions, please reach out to our resource partners or reach out to our district, send us email. We'll be happy to help you. So the next it's a program that I mentioned earlier. It's a 5-4 program. This program also called Economic Development Program, and it's programs designed specifically to finance fixed assets to small businesses on reasonable terms and to stimulate employment through a job retention and creation goal. Again, we simply supplement or guarantee loans that lending institutions make to small businesses. Where SBA plays a role is that we help the lender to get over any issue that perhaps they have, such as risk mitigation, down payment, credit issue, because we have this SBA guarantee. The only time we do lending directly, it's in the time of disaster. We do have disaster loans. And SBA has the 5-4 program. It's a 3-partner program. We have a third-party lender. They provide 50% or more of the financing, but typically it's a 50%. The CDC nonprofit have investors. They will inject 40%, and your own down payment, it's a 10%, unless it's the specific use of property like dental's office, then it will be more like 15%. Again, it's 5.5 million for the SBA backed debentures. And on the link how to apply and how to find CDC in your area. And I would recommend first go find the CDC or find a lender, a bank that you know and like, and start talking to them about technical questions you have for program, and also reach out to our partners for assistance. The area we do help, it's a federal contracting. Federal government, it's another area that SBA supports small businesses. Every agency is required to purchase their goods and services from small businesses. 23% of our purchases are made from small businesses. And there is a set-aside economically disadvantaged small businesses. That means out of those 23%, 5% is set aside for women-owned small businesses. 12% is for small disadvantaged businesses and AA. Then we have 3% for service disabled veteran-owned small businesses and 3% for businesses located in a hub zone. That means pool of businesses that you're competing with to earn those contracts is smaller than those 23% for small businesses. So if you're thinking you might be qualified and you're interested in doing federal contracting, I encourage you go to the website and you see the link on the slide. It's sba.gov/contracting and answer their questionnaire. They will help you to determine if you're ready to do government contracting, because there's a bit of paperwork involved in the process. You have to certify in order to apply for those set-asides. If you're suitable for government contracting, they will ask you a couple of questions like, does the federal government buy what you sell? Do you have government contracting experience? Do you have the adequate cash flow, inventory, and working capital, etc.? So if you're interested, go and do the questionnaire and find out if it may be something for you. In case you have any questions regarding government contracting or how do you certify, like women-owned, veteran, small business-owned, I would recommend you go if you're one of these counties like Butte, Calusa, El Dorado, see those counties, and the site address. If you're not part of these counties, go check Monterey Bay, procurement technical assistance, or check the NorCal PTAC. So how does it work? You will go to their website. For example, you're from El Dorado. You go to the website, californiacapital.org/Apex, and you will create your own profile. And it's absolutely for free, but they would like to keep record of all small business who reach out to them. And you will be placed with a consultant who will go over with you all the specific government contracting and certification questions. And they will also help you to see the previous history and do like different historical analysis, and will help you with the acquisition and how to find contracts, etc. And SBA, so I mentioned a couple times here today about our resource partners network. We're very proud to have SCORE, a small business development center, women's business center, and veteran business outreach center as our resource partner, because we serve directly through them in a cooperative agreement. They provide great one-on-one consulting services at no cost or at little cost. They have great variety of different webinars, trainings, specifically for your needs. Small Business Development Center, they have industry-specific advisors that assist entrepreneurs and existing businesses how to start business. If you need help with the strategy, business workshops, one-on-one consulting. And small business development centers provide consulting resources from lawyers, CPAs, bookkeepers, and etc. Women's Business Center, they do comprehensive training and counseling, and they focus on supporting women's entrepreneurship to if they would like to launch the business and compete in the marketplace, but their services, they're not limited to women only, especially their training and classes. And SCORE. And since 1964, SCORE has helped more than 11 million entrepreneurs to start, grow, and successfully exit the business. And SCORE's database has more than 10,000 volunteers. They provide expert mentoring, free resources, and education in all of the 50 United States and territories. They have great recorded webinars on different topics, how to find grants, funding, and financing your business, different online workshops. So I would definitely recommend you go and check their website, score.org. They have lots of very useful templates for business start, for existing businesses. So go and check out their website. And a VBOX Center, it's for military or spouses of military. Again, training, counseling, and mentorship. Okay, so here's a slide that has lots of contact information. So I mentioned earlier today, we do assist with the disaster loans. Those disaster loans, the only time it's we do direct lending in terms of disaster. Those loans, the direct loans from federal government, you need to go to their website and you can see if your county is in a declared disaster county, and you can apply right there on the website, and what you would be eligible for. You can check in terms of property damage to your home, or maybe a business, or maybe it's economic injury disaster loan like EIDL. And you probably heard of the EIDL. Now it's requiring payments, and it's not forgivable, and it does have to be repaid. You can go to the website and look at my SBA loan portal, and where you will be able to set up payments into your account. You can make payments through my SBA, and everything can be done right there. And also you see here our phone number. We're open to the public by appointment only, so you have to call us and schedule one. You can also subscribe to our Twitter, and we recently got access to the LinkedIn site. So please go and check out. We do post like different events there and different updates that happen in the community, or different events that are hosted by our resource partners. You can visit our district calendar, where we post any upcoming in-person or virtual trainings for businesses. And if you'd like to subscribe to our newsletter, we send it every Friday on a possible grant opportunities from city or county. You just send me email and I will add you to the list. And so this is the last slide from my presentation, and I would like to know how we're doing. You can, so it's very important to us, and was this information valuable to you? And you can use the this code either today or when you'll receive the slides via email. You can determine a couple of minutes of your time, and questions if we assisted you. It's a really very short questionnaire. So and let me know if you have any questions. Again, if you have any specific questions on the loans or government contracting, disaster loans, I would recommend going to our website and check the information or reach out to our partners. And so let's see if we have. Okay, thank you, Stacy. Yeah, I'm glad you saw my screen. Okay. So let me see if we have any questions.
I don't see any questions coming in, Oksana.
Yeah, me too. I don't see any. But you will receive the slides of this presentation with the links. And in case if you have any other questions, reach out to us, the Accommodation office, or reach out to our partners for assistance. Yeah, thank you, Stacy. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming and spending your time, your afternoon.
Thank you for coming today. Timothy, we don't answer specific